Remembering What You Always Knew, Part 2. March 23, 2016. You do not die. Death is a third-dimensional illusion. Death is not even an illusion that occurs within the fourth dimension. Your fourth-dimensional self remembers that when you cross the line called death, in the third-dimensional world, you find that you were in another world in which you feel very alive. When you remember that, you remember more and more of the lives in which you tried to ascend and could not. But you lived a good life, you followed your spiritual practice, and, in the end you died like everyone else. But you didn't really die. You went to the fourth-dimensional astral plane. Sometimes you traveled into higher dimensions, and other times, you remained in the fourth-dimensional astral plane. Then, when you felt as though you had moved through and learned enough about the lifetime from which you just died, you would die to your fourth-dimensional life and be born into a third-dimensional life. Then, that third-dimensional life would progress until you would die to that third-dimensional life and be born to your fourth-dimensional life. It is for this reason that the third-fourth dimension is called the Wheel of Life and Death. On this wheel, your consciousness is usually limited to the time-space of the physical and astral planes. Thus, your perceptions are limited to the third and fourth dimensions. Eventually, your consciousness expands enough that you remember that you are a multidimensional being, and that you have conscious forms on many higher dimensional planes of reality. When you remember this while you are still wearing a physical earth vessel, your consciousness greatly expands. This acceleration of consciousness occurs because you are stepping out of the 3D/4D matrix of time and space. Within the illusion of time, you have a time in which you are born and a time in which you die. You also believe that you are separate from others. However, when you remember you are a multidimensional being, your consciousness expands beyond the limitations of time-space. It is then that the concepts of birth and death become third-fourth dimensional terms that only relate to your third and fourth dimensional vessels. Once your consciousness expands into the now of the fifth dimension and beyond, your sense of self shifts from, I am a human who can sometimes visit spirit, to I am a spirit who has extended my essence into a physical vessel. However, no matter how often you remember your multidimensional nature, you may still forget it while in the daily process of wearing your third-dimensional earth vessel. This forgetting about your multidimensional self occurs because the earth vessel you are wearing limits your perceptions to the realms of time and space. It takes time to move through space. Therefore, you become tired, because you are busy from your working and thinking. In your earth vessel, you also feel separate, which can make you upset, frightened or lonely. Sometimes you become sick. And this list goes on and on. Fortunately, once you fully remember your true, multidimensional nature, you begin to have many experiences of your own higher dimensional self. These experiences greatly expand your consciousness. Then, as your consciousness expands, your perceptions expand to embrace more and more fourth-dimensional experiences. As you continue to increasingly perceive fourth-dimensional auras, fourth-dimensional elementals, you become more and more of a planetary being and less of just a 3D human being. You begin to remember your myriad lives on your third-dimensional planet, as well as the many in-between lives on the fourth-dimensional astral plane. You may also begin to associate your physical life with your planetary life and your planetary self. First you think of the planet as a living being, and then you begin to think of yourself as a multidimensional being living on a living multidimensional planet. Eventually, you will progress to being the planet because you and Earth are one. This is when you embrace what might be called your animal self. The animal kingdom does not have the separation that the human kingdom does. The animal kingdom has much to share with the humans. Animals do not spoil their nest because they perceive themselves as one with the earth. Animals live within unity consciousness, such as a flock of birds, a herd of zebra, a school of fish. Animals also live within the now. They follow the flow of nature, and know at what time they can go to which place to get the food that they need. When you can embrace the unity consciousness of the animal kingdom, your consciousness expands into higher dimensions, as well as deeper into the planetary life force of Gaia. You then have the experiences of wondering, how does it feel to be a planet? This question catapults you back up into, how does it feel to be a multidimensional being? Your next progression of thinking might be, how does it feel to have fifth-dimensional consciousness that is based on the here and the now? Once you remember the freedom from separation, you can remember the feeling of living in unity consciousness with all life. As long as you are still wearing your dense earth vessel, you will likely forget the above memories, then you remember a bit more, then you forget, and then you remember even more, and then you forget. Within this ever-expanding remembering and forgetting, you are gradually jumping into higher and higher expressions of self, then grounding these perceptions deeper and deeper into your unconscious self. Then, when you return to your daily, third-dimensional self, you realize that something feels very different. You are gradually coming to the juxtaposition of now I'm in my third, fourth-dimensional reality or now I'm in my fourth and fifth-dimensional reality. A very important point to remember is that when you experience your fifth-dimensional self, you will leave time. Hence, it does not take time or effort to return to your fifth-dimensional self, nor does it take time or effort for you to return to your third-dimensional self. At first you might forget everything that happened and everyone that you were with when you had that brief moment, free of time, within your fifth-dimensional self. The time in which you were your fifth-dimensional self probably feels like a second to your third-dimensional self. Within that second that you left time, you learn a great deal about how to remember your true, multidimensional self and your true, multidimensional reality. However, your third-dimensional brain is based on time and sequence. Hence, you may remember that something happened, but you cannot find words to describe it. Your physical thinking may believe that you are learning something, but your fifth-dimensional thinking knows that you are remembering what you always knew. While you are in your third-dimensional consciousness, your focus is the out there on what you have to do. On the other hand, when you are in your fifth-dimensional consciousness, the doing becomes the being, and your dreaming becomes the perceiving of the truth that you always knew. However, you forgot what you always knew because you were so involved with what was occurring outside of you, in your third-dimensional life of illusion and strife. In the fifth dimension, your thoughts and emotions become the blueprint of the reality that you are creating. Also, you remember that you chose to take an earth vessel, and you wrote your own blueprint for why you chose to take an earth vessel within that now. Your fifth-dimensional consciousness also remembers what you came to do, and who you came to be, because in the fifth dimension, doing and being is the same. When you have connected with your fifth-dimensional consciousness enough to remember your pre-birth choices, you can also remember why you have chosen this particular life, and you also begin to remember who you truly are. Once these multidimensional memories enter your third-dimensional memory, you are usually called into your active duty. It is then that you fully begin to experience your ability to be your higher self while you can also be your physical self. In other words, you begin to remember what you always knew. Channeled by Suzanne Lee. SuzanneLeePhD.blogspot.com